How can you be sure that you are saved? That's what's coming up in today's Grow Group Leader Tidbits. As we go through the online study, I want to give you some pointers to help you lead your group through the studies. I first went through the online study when I was at college, and it's designed so that once you've been led through it, that you are able to then lead someone else through it. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've gone through this study with, but every time I've done it, I've seen people's minds blown wide open at the truths that are revealed. So in this first study, we're going to be answering the question, how can we be sure that we are saved? And one of the first questions that is asked in the study is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is certain, how sure are you that you are right with God and that you'll be with Him forever? Now, this is a great question to show you where your group is at. There are going to be some who will say 10 right off the bat. Maybe they've been a Christian for decades and know their Bible well. There will be others, though, who aren't so certain. They still may have been Christians for decades, or maybe they're relatively new believers, but they're not 100% sure whether they'll be with God forever. They've never had someone to sit down with them and explain it. Now, if one of the first answers from someone in your group is a confident 10, then others might be unwilling to share their true answer of a lower number. So you may want to draw people out by asking questions like, is anyone not a 10? Does anyone consider themselves lower than a 7 or lower than a 5? And you're going to want people to remember their answer, because we're going to come back to this at the end. Now, in each online study, there are Bible passages to be read, questions to be asked, and also some explanation paragraphs to be read as well. I recommend that you be the one who asks the questions, but when it comes to the passages and the paragraphs, let other people read them. This keeps you from doing all the talking. And with the passages usually being quite short, most people will be comfortable reading them aloud. Maybe you could just go around the circle, having the next person read the next paragraph and the next person read the next Bible verse, etc. But don't force anyone to read if you think they're going to be uncomfortable. Also, in each study, there is a particular truth to be learned, but also a faith principle which can be applied outside this particular topic. In this first study, the truth we're going to learn is that we can be 100% sure that we are saved because God promises it in the Bible. And the faith principle goes beyond that and looks at how we can know and believe all the promises of God, not just those that tie to our salvation. One of the questions that appears repeatedly in this first study and also in future sessions is, what is the promise in this Bible verse and what are the conditions to that promise? This is a great question for us to remember whenever we open our Bibles, because it's in knowing and believing and acting on the promises of God that our faith will grow and our relationship with God will grow too. And this online study gives one of the most useful illustrations to teach this. It's the fact, faith, and feeling train. I cannot begin to tell you how many times I've used this or alluded to it when I'm counseling people. As the study explains, as Christians, we live by faith. We trust in God and trust that He will do what He says He will do in His Word. So the thing that makes this train move is the promises of God. God's promises will hold even if we believe in them or not. But the fuel to make this engine run in our own lives is our faith in God's promises. The more fuel we put in the engine, the more we trust in God's promises, the more transformation we will experience in our lives. Our feelings are valid and important, but they are not required for our faith to be effective, just as a train doesn't require a caboose to run. I remember when I became a Christian at 6 years old, I prayed to receive Christ late one summer night in my bedroom all by myself. When I woke up the next morning, I vividly remember expecting something to feel different, but it was just a regular day. Thankfully, I don't ever remember doubting my conversion, but I remember that there wasn't any particular feeling associated with it. But I know I am saved because of God's promises in His Word. There are days when I feel guilty and worthless, and if my faith rested on my feelings, I would have very wavering faith. But the more and more I trust and rely on the promises of God, the more my feelings will follow along. The last question of the study repeats the earlier question to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 our confidence that we are right with God. Hopefully, after the study, everyone will say they're a 10, but maybe there are some who haven't quite got it yet. We can boldly declare that we are 10 because it has nothing to do with us, My wife and I are using the online study to do some premarital counselling with a couple, and the wife-to-be put it brilliantly. We're always a 10 with God. We can be sure that we are saved because God promises in His Word that if we believe in Him, then we are saved. It's not based on my performance or my devotion or anything I do. It's all on God. And as my little daughter Naomi will tell you, God never breaks His promises. So that's the main gist of this first online study. But I also want to assure you of one other thing. There are no trick questions in this study. Most of the questions can be found easily in the Bible passage preceding it, and that's all the answer we're looking for. And even if it feels like you've already answered a question 2, 3 other times, it's because you have. The studies show us these truths from multiple parts of the Bible, but it serves to hammer home the truths that are being taught. So I really hope you enjoyed this first online study, and let's climb aboard the Fact, Faith and Feeling train. Woo woo! Chugga 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 chugga. Okay, so here's today's discussion question. I said a moment ago that us being a 10 with God has nothing to do with us, our performance, or our behavior. One question that is often asked is, but doesn't our sin stop us from being a 10? Well, how would you answer that question? Discuss it in the comments below. People all over the world